What is up?
Dr. Matt, good evening. Good evening.
Nice to see you, my friend. Nice to see you.
Good to see you this evening.
Yeah.
We're back in here. It's been a
I
little
know.
while.
It's been a while since
Yeah.
our little wealth and health ramblings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's I looked at it. The last time we did one of these was the beginning of November.
Okay.
So, hey, what up, Serge? Good evening to you. What's up, buddy? It's good to see you. Good to see you in here.
Thanks for
Hope
popping
all is
on.
well. Yeah. We've taken a little hiatus. Just all the stuff we've been up to, and you've been doing some traveling.
Just a little bit, nothing too crazy. Well, I guess since we did just the one time, I guess. Yeah. Las Vegas, baby.
Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Little Vegas time. That'll clear your palate.
Place is nuts.
Cleanse your soul.
Talk about the opposite of building wealth and health.
In building wealth and health, this is all the things you should not do. Although you can fictitiously build health or wealth there. I don't know about health.
Potentially.
Yes. Yeah. The potential's there.
So you're saying there's a chance.
Wow, these are bothering me tonight. Yeah, but did you build any wealth while you were there? Or is it strictly all biz?
Not. I was all biz. Those places kind of depress me, seeing all those people just sitting at those machines and tables and stuff. Just
tell you what.
Yeah, I don't know. I get it. It's fun for some people. It's just not really. It's not really my game. So that's cool, but
it can be fun if you are. I mean, dude, it's like a lot of things. If you're willing, it's money you're willing to give up because you don't care about it. It's fun as long as you're in that mindset. And you know what? Bonus if you make money. I've and the few times that I've actually gambled there or somewhere else, there's always, it's like anything. Like you start feeling like, oh, I made $500. Oh, I made $800, and you keep going. Eventually,
that's what they
nature
want.
Catches up.
Yeah, that's right. House keep always wins.
Hey, we'll keep feeding you drinks.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, if you got a budget, if you figure, yeah, people dig it. I get it.
I like 21, Serge. Really... I do like playing that. Blackjack. Stick with what you know for sure, but you just want to pick and choose.
Put it all on red. Let it roll.
Yeah. I've never walked away from any of those feeling like I've gained any wealth from any of that at all.
No.
The wealth that I did gain, that's the fun money for sure. All right. So you didn't lose any money either then. So that's good.
I did not. No. Yeah. Not, nothing crazy. No. But
that's good.
It was good. Good. Yeah. Just business stuff. Conference. It was an interesting conference. It was about, it's a really big organization. They do these, conferences and trainings for docs all over the country. This is like what their big kind of end of the year one that they do in Vegas. And there was, I don't know, a couple thousand people there probably. And
nice.
Yeah. So it's the American Anti-Aging, the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine, A4M. So 4 A's and M. So
Fountain of Youth.
Yeah. Well, yeah, really. I mean, it's a lot of stuff looking at how to stay healthy, how to, dealing with chronic illnesses and lifestyle stuff. And, there's like I said, there's a big training program. So docs can get into these different tracks that kind of give them the, the certifications, for different modalities, different treatment. Like for example, there's like a hormone track. So people are learning about all kinds of stuff with hormones and using those. There's a track for peptides, which are kind of this new rage where you in that field. So get certified and all that stuff. So
nice.
Yeah. And
did you do any talks while you were there?
I did not. No, I went
No.
to a few. No, I mean, this is one of those things where you got to be kind of to be on the faculty and those sorts of things. You got to be pretty high up in that world, pretty well known. A lot of the, authors and people that are kind of well known in that world get invited to do that stuff, or people that pay sponsor the event.
Oh yeah,
things
money
like
talks.
That. Yeah, so if you throw down money in your company, you can probably get a spot on stage. So
yeah,
but yeah, it was good. A lot of cool people. Got to see some friends, got to see some colleagues, people I hadn't seen in 20 years.
Yeah.
So it was kind of.
Did you run into Dr. Tina out there?
Ran into Dr. Tina. Yep. Those
nice.
of you guys who don't know Tina Moore, Dr. Tina Moore, Tyna. Good person to know, good person to follow on Instagram.
Yeah, for sure.
She's really, really good, inspirational, no bullshit doc. She kind of gets people to be about responsibility. She's a really smart woman, really smart businesswoman as well. Learned a lot from her from a business standpoint and marketing. I did a whole marketing program with her. She kind of coaching marketing program with her. It was great.
Nice.
So yeah, good person to know.
Yeah, for sure. Well, there's her page, and if you guys want to follow her, she's definitely in the know on everything, especially right now.
Yeah.
And she's
especially with the crazy health world stuff right now. Yeah,
and like everybody that's big time, she's got her opinions on stuff. So, everything's there for you, but she's a smart lady for sure. And she's from the same school I went to. Actually, I was a little bit ahead of her. I think she came in a couple of years after I left, but okay.
I can't remember exactly her timing, but anyway, I've known her for a while, and it was good to connect with her. And some other buddies from back in the day.
Nice.
So yeah.
Nice.
For sure.
Serge, you got a question. You started a business, which I do remember you telling me about. Just wondering what advice you can give. Started in July. Remind me again what your business is. Vision is important. You can't start a business without a vision, right, Dr. Matt?
No, you cannot.
You have to have good vision too. Like, I mean, again, talking about health and stuff, your eyesight's important, but clarity of what you're trying to do and where you're trying to progress to is important. I for sure, but both of us personally know people that have gone through that world and not succeeded. And success is a really subjective term for businesses and entrepreneurs, but clarity is really, really important in understanding direction. Oh, painting. That's right. Duh, dude. I'm sorry. I totally forgot. So painting business, man, you're going to be busy. You're going to be busy. Well, I mean, in the world of construction, you certainly have to have vision and being clear as to what you're going to do. You could get it. I mean, painting in itself, what are you going to paint? Are you going to be doing homes, exterior painting, interior painting? Are you going to be doing refinishing furniture, cabinets? Because people will call you and say, hey, you're a painter. What are you doing? Great. Can you do this and this and this? And especially when you're first starting out in a business, the most important and most dire situations are going to be the ones where you say yes to everything. And you want to pick the things you want to do and that you're good at, and say no, which is hard to do when you're trying to grow a business. Say no to the things you don't want to do and are not good at, because you'll quickly become overwhelmed and you'll quickly get over your head, and you'll end up spending money faster than you can make it. And you literally, people understand, in a business you're starting up, you're going to be spending more than you make. You got to be resilient and understand that.
And patient.
And very patient, very, very patient, understanding it's coming. As long as you stick to your vision and you have a plan of what you're trying to do, you just run with that. And it's so important that people understand you have to do it that way. I'm speaking from experience too. You especially after year one, obviously you're hustling, trying to pick up as much work as you can. But again, you got to make sure of what that work is. But like year 2 and 3, I mean, especially in this world right now of construction, and like I said, you're gonna be busy, understanding, you know, you're going to start making money.
Yep.
And you got to be able, you have to have first of all, you have to have a position in place where everything works, whether you have 2 clients or 100 clients. And you don't get away from that system. And then at the same time, stick with your plan of don't continue to take work just because it's there. And you're starting to get, your ego will develop, right? And you'll start becoming very confident in, I'm good at this, so therefore I'm going to expand. Oh, I think I could figure that out. Oh, I think I can do that. And then that's where you get in trouble. Businesses fail, and Dr. Matt Sermi says businesses fail in good economies, not bad economies. And they fail with overproduction and understaff. And that's just you and somebody else, or you by yourself, or you and 20 people. Not having that system and running that, the support behind the system in the business is really important. If you don't have that set up, you will fail. Year 2, year 3, year 4 is basically when you start imploding on yourself.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I think being consistent is so important. You know, I think that people, and that goes to the system that you're talking about, you know, having, you know, that consistency of how you deliver what you're delivering, and that you're consistent in, I guess it kind of comes back to like patience again. I mean, people I think are so, I know I was, God, man. So, and it's hard because you can, and the other thing I would say is don't compare yourself to anybody else.
No.
Like be, you know, learn from other people and maybe get inspired by them, but don't
constantly expose yourself to that.
But don't compare yourself per se, because you're a totally different person. You're a totally different environment. You're in a totally different, you know, city or economic area or whatever it is, right? It's different for wherever you are. So you have to be cognizant of that and just, you know, be you. Like, that's what people want. They don't want you to be, they sell you. And I think that's one of the biggest things I've learned over the last, God, man, probably over the last, honestly, like the last 5 years, probably is the biggest I've learned. And I've been doing this for a while. So that
at least 100 years
feels like it. Yeah. But like the 5, like, you know, really like, just like people want, like they sign up, they come in, they work with me because of me, you know, and, you know, it's, there's the skills I have and the knowledge I have and blah, 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 but it's about me.
They're coming back to see you. They're being referred to you because of you. They're getting better because of you.
Right.
You're helping them. Everyone, like, you know, Serge is an example, but in anything that's, you know, in an environment where you deal with clients differently than somebody else. You deal with patients differently than somebody else.
Exactly.
Your personality, like you touched on, is obviously going to be different than somebody else. So use those things and don't change it. Don't try and shift it because, I see this guy on YouTube and this is the way he does it. So I'm going to do my videos this way because this is the way he does it. No. Whatever you're good at, whatever makes sense to you, whatever format it has to be in has got to be on your end. I mean, Dr. Matt's right. You can't, you can learn from other people, but you can't compare yourself or try and mimic other people. That's where you're going to get screwed up.
Especially early on. I mean, I can remember, like, there's a woman that came out of school, I don't know, maybe a year before me or 2 years. I don't remember, but she moved to a place and just started killing it in like 6 months. Like, I don't know exactly what, but it was her experience. It was her environment. It was her place that she was in her life. Like, you know, all these factors. Right.
Right.
And so, but I made the mistake of thinking that, that's how it's going to be because she did it. It's like, hold on, wait a minute. And it didn't happen that way for me. And fuck, right? Like, what are you going to do? And so I had to, you know, reevaluate all that, you know, and anyway, it was a good lesson in humility and not comparing myself to that and learning from what she was doing, of course, but knowing it was a totally different situation. And I don't know, the other thing that popped into my head when, you know, just advice on starting a business was, I think getting really clear on like what sets you apart, like having that niche, like specialize in something, and it could be anything, you know. And like, I don't know, I think about painting, because I'll say it from like, and this, I use this or not, like, it's just a thought. Like, there's a whole bunch of people that would be very interested in somebody that would provide paint and services that were as low toxic as possible. And if that was like something you could like market and like get that niche, like that's something that people, there's a market for that. It's like, hey, if I come paint your house, if I'm painting your bedroom, I'm going to use the highest quality, lowest toxic paint that's available. Yeah, it's more expensive, whatever, but you know, it's just an example, right? Like, it's just something
for sure.
It's like somebody's building a house, like you're going to specialize in this particular way of building, or I mean, in my field, I specialize in using this particular modalities and these ways of working with patients,
right?
You know, but you can't be everything to everyone. You have to, and that's the hardest thing when you first start out. Like you were saying, like you want to just take everything.
You want, and it's going to come quick. It's going to come real quick, and people are they're gonna ask you for whatever, and the money's gonna be there, and you're like, whoa, I can make good money in this. Yeah, but be really careful, because that's not
if you don't
we talk about in the market. Well, it's unrealized, right? It's not realized gains, it's unrealized.
Yeah. And if you don't like it, it's gonna like burn you out.
It's gonna burn you out.
And you're gonna be
in your work,
and you're gonna be you're gonna be really bad at what you do. Unintentionally.
Yeah. So. Advertising is a good idea. There's a couple of things to I mean, actually, Dr. Matt touched on something too with specializing, and it's, you know, making sure that when you come up to a potential client, they're asking you questions about whatever it is you do, and there's certain things that have been used in an industry for a while. Like, for example, in painting, you know, painters would say to me, and they still do, which is interesting, well, we use low VOC products. Everything on the market now is low VOC.
Right.
Like if you have paint that doesn't say low VOC on it, that paint's old. You found it on some damn shelf in the back. Yeah. And I don't want it anyway, because it's that shelf life's toast. Low VOC has been out for 5-6 years required. That's like just what has to be made in a factory now. No VOC, right? That's a little bit different. That's a step in the other direction. So you want to use quality materials, but you don't want to gouge the client. And right now everything's stupid expensive, but your overhead has to equate to you making money. But the other part is you got to make sure that it's going to actually work for the person you're trying to get the business with. Where you know, the painting job should be around 10 grand, and you know, you can't do it for less than 17. That's a problem. And you're like, well, this is my cost, this is what I have to make, right? But you're using the products. That's kind of the game, is figuring out your overhead. Some of those percentages, we're talking about the vision. You need to understand how much percent of the total job needs to be on your overhead. When you're first starting out, you shouldn't have very much at all.
Right.
You're going to have to have insurance.
Good point.
You're going to have some of the minimal admin costs, but don't go out and get a warehouse, and don't go out and buy 3 trucks, and do the minimum amount of overhead with the maximum number of people. Meaning, if it's just you doing it right now, stretch it as far as you can go before you absolutely have to hire help, or you absolutely have to go get another vehicle, or you absolutely have to have another tool. And again, that's speaking from experience. Don't go big early, because you don't know what you're going to need or what the market's going to dictate to you later.
Yeah.
It's really important to figure out, again, with painting, what are you painting? What do you want to do? And then you can go dictate what market you're going to go talk to. Meaning, are you going to go talk to builders, general contractors? Are you going to advertise just in homes that are just, homes built over 20 years old? People are needing it. You're driving around neighborhoods realizing all these houses were built at the same time, and there's a lot of paint that needs to be done. Are you going to go chase down hailstorms where people are going to be getting checks, right, for hail damage, and they're going to need, replacement? Are you going to just, whatever it is, you got to figure out what it is you want to do. Are you just going to do interior furniture and fixtures and cabinets, or what? There's a million ways you can go with it. Yeah, that's going to dictate what type, what tools you're going to need, what setup you're going to need, how many people you're going to need as you move forward. And that's so important to understand that whole thing. The other thing, actually, I mean, well, I will say this too, that, you know, early success doesn't dictate future results at all.
Yeah.
So you could go out, especially right now in a good market, you could go out and make a killing in your first year of business and think, I'm only going to grow from here.
Yeah,
which is a fallacy. Ups and downs.
There's
going to be ups and downs. It's going to get slow. You got to, and that's when you start adapting and maybe adding a couple of extra niches in, bringing in a specialist that does refinish cabinets, a woodworker that would do that for you. You pay him either a salary or you can have him as a subcontractor or whatever, how you want to set that up. You know, you can adapt to changing markets. But I mean, again, when I started my business, right off the bat, we made a lot of money. The first 3 years were phenomenal. And then things changed. Year 4 wasn't bad. Year 5 was average. Year 6 was like, whoa, what the hell's going on? Things were up and down the whole time. So understanding, again, staying ahead of the market.
Yeah, it's like the market, right? Like, you know, what the average gain of the stock market is like 10% or whatever. I've heard, you know, something like that. But that doesn't mean every year it's 10%.
No.
That's like some years it's down, some years it's up. So yeah, that's where the consistency comes in. That's where the showing up. That's where the because the other thing about consistency, at least in my experience, and this probably has a little bit to do with my introverted personality, but showing up and connecting. I mean, I've just been amazed at just being like how much people want to help you and how much people can support you when you're just authentically you. And but you got to build those relationships, right? It's like you show up, you're engaged in it, you know, and people feel that, people see that, you know. Like I got some referral the other day from somebody, I don't even know who the doctor was that referred him to me. Like I never met him.
Right.
But somehow like my name is out there from somebody. Why?
It grows.
Because I've been doing this for a while and I'm out there. You know, does it mean? So anyway, I think it's especially in the service industry, because that's really what we're talking about, right? Like it's, you just gotta, you know, be consistent.
Yeah. So here's another fallacy, Serge, about this industry in particular. You're worth what you're worth. Underbidding jobs is never a good idea. You know, if someone provides you other estimates and says, can you beat it? Every once in a while you can look at that and say, yeah, actually that's severely overpriced. I mean, I'm not going to like try, I'm not underbidding this job. It's just, this is what I can do it for. This is my fair price. I'm comfortable with the fact that I'm going to pay my guys and make money on this job at this price. And this guy's just more expensive. That's what he determines he needs to make on this. Right. But saying I can outbid any estimate, or I'm not the most expensive guy, but I'm not the cheapest. Every job's going to be different. Every number is going to be different. And you got to understanding right up front what your overhead's going to be, what percentage do you make? What are you paying yourself to be there on the job versus running the business? Those are two separate things too. And when you're just a one-man show, it's even harder to dictate.
That's a really good point.
You're doing all of it, but right? So like, what's the painter make per hour? Well, that's you right now. Okay, right. So that's per hour. How many hours are you going to do it? Now, what's the owner of the business supposed to get a cut on? Like, what percentage of that job is for you? And then what do you need for overhead and profit? These are all like equations you have to have. And at the beginning, that's smaller because, you know, there's smaller pieces to the puzzle. When you start growing and having more overhead and other things and more employees, the numbers change.
Right.
The overall budget for a job really won't change much because you're only equating so many labor hours to it and that much time on the owner end as far as dictating and running that project. But you have to know those numbers up front. So don't sit there and say, well, I'm newer at this. I have a newer business, so I'm not going to be the most expensive guy. I'm not going to be the cheapest guy. I'm going to be the cheapest guy, whatever it is. There's a fallacy. I hear it all the time. Well, I mean, this plumber is less expensive than this guy. Well, I don't necessarily want the cheapest plumber. I don't want the cheapest painter. unless you're comfortable doing it. And I've seen your work, and it's just you've figured out a way to make it work with that number. I'm not going to argue. That's up to you. But you will create a problem with clients if you hand in a estimate after estimate, and people are calling you out to bid, and you're consistently on the lower end. People move away from that. It's just like anything else you buy. Well, that's only $3, and they're selling it for 10 over here. Something's wrong with this. I don't want to buy the $3 item.
Yeah, you and I have talked about this before in other contexts, and it's so fascinating to all these different these different professions, and these different people are trying to figure out like what your work time is worth, right? And it's especially new people coming in, and it doesn't change. Actually, it doesn't really change. It's always the conversation. But you know who has it all figured out, or mostly figured out, is the lawyers.
Yeah.
Just they don't have people they understand that the lawyer that's the most expensive is probably the better one for the most part, right? Like it's just something that
he or she can drive that price.
Yeah, generally. They kind of figure that out, and the lawyers, they don't back down from that at all. And in fact, then they start billing you for like their little, I'll give you 5 minutes and then I start the clock kind of crap,
Right.
And I've always just thought that was so interesting, and they have no problem doing that. No. So yeah, I'm 500 an hour,
$50 a text, $300 an email.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that people have to you don't have to do that, but it's just it's just a mindset that's interesting, because in my profession, I'm outside the medical model, right? Like I don't do the insurance game. I don't do any of that stuff. So it is, I have my rate that I charge, and I have my office, fee that I, charge, and, and that was always a debate. Like, how much do you charge for that? Because people, for whatever reason, equate going to the doctor with insurance. Well, I understand why, with insurance, and they don't want to pay, they pay all this insurance money, and I get all that. And I'm outside that. So they, kind of freak out that it's out of pocket, and I'm like, oh, but, then you try to sort of sort all that out. Like, what's it worth? Like, what do I, how do I value that? And it's a ongoing question,
right.
It's nothing that's, yeah. Anyway,
it's something that's sure. It's a psychological. It's intriguing to me psychologically,
isn't it?
Because
yeah,
especially when I see new people, getting into a business and becoming an entrepreneur, and it's hard for them to dictate what are they worth. Well, I'm new, so I'm not worth anything.
That's not true.
So wait a second. So you're starting a business, you have no idea what you're doing at all? Well, then you shouldn't be doing that. Go get experience first.
Right.
You should be starting a business already knowing how to run the entire business yourself. You know how to do the accounting. You know how to do the paperwork. You know how to how to deal with clients. You know how to physically do the work, right? You know how to do the back end taxes. All of that you should know how to do. You shouldn't be doing all of it. At the beginning, you will be to get it moving. But then bring in a partner, bring in employees, bring in whatever it is, you start building that. But you should, if shit hits the fan and everybody has to leave, or you have to lay people off, or whatever it is, you can run the entire business, but you're not going to run the entire business.
Exactly.
And that's what you're worth, right? You are at the top of the food chain in the company. When Jeff Bezos started Amazon, he didn't say, I'm only worth $5 an hour. He saw, his vision was, we're doing this. It's going to make this much money, and I'm going to pay myself X, period.
Yep.
Because I'm the guy that's taking all the risks. So this is how we're going to go. I'm the smart guy. I know I'm building this from the ground up. Bill Gates.
Yep.
But that's exactly what he did. Right.
Right.
I mean, you have to, when we talk about ego, the ego comes into what you're worth, but don't let the ego dictate, creating and expanding into other avenues of the industry that you shouldn't be doing anyway. So there's a psychological battle, but you're worth it because you're the one offering the services. You're the one taking the risk.
And you're taking the risk. Yeah. Don't forget that. Yeah. That's a huge thing. Like, that's a big deal. You're doing what majority of people will not do.
Yep.
And there's a huge risk to that. It might fail. So many businesses fail within the first 5 years.
Yep.
I mean, you and I had that happen, we didn't, it's so,
not everything we've done or started has been successful.
No.
Listen, I've owned restaurants, I've owned coffee shops. I don't own those restaurants and coffee shops anymore. And there's different reasons for that. Some of them were great. Some of them were not going to work. It could have been the people involved. It could have been what we were doing with it. There's many different reasons. We started a business that had a super great idea. Everyone loved it. Didn't work. For many reasons.
For a lot of reasons. Yeah. And it's okay.
You get kicked in the nuts sometimes. It happens. Doesn't mean you're not doing the right thing either. Right? It just means
it just didn't work.
It didn't work. It's not the right time. You didn't go about it properly. You have to reevaluate it, which is why, walking into it with the vision and understanding of what you're actually trying to do and where it's going and who is your clientele, what market are you really in? Those kinds of things are so important. I didn't even do that when I started Bailey Custom Homes. I went out with a specific vision of how this is going to go.
Yeah.
And when we stayed with it, it worked well. When I started saying, oh man, I am so good at this and this and this and this. So every time someone called, we love you. We saw you on TV. We saw you do this. Sure, we'll do it for you. I mean, I take little tiny jobs. I take giant jobs. I was all over the map. And guess what happened?
Yeah.
Dude, it was like Evergrande. It was goodbye. It was horrible. But you can also regain that, catch yourself at the bottom and figure out what worked, what didn't work. And pull yourself back up.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the worst things that people can do is not value. Cool. Here's the other thing that I've learned. And we've talked about this before, and I'm glad we can bring this up again, because it is all about the energy flow. And when you put yourself out as the business owner, you're taking that risk and you're putting that energy out, and it will come back to you. But it comes back to you in the proportion of the people that you attract back into it. Right. So if you're thinking that you're only worth, I don't know, $5 an hour, you're going to get people that expect you to be $5 an hour. Yep, and those are not the best people that you want, and I've seen that I've done that a lot of times. It's like, oh, you want to give away something. You want to help someone out here. You want to, do this. And it's like, okay, there's a point where I understand that. And I was actually listening to a colleague talk about this earlier. She was doing a little talk about it. And she was talking about, she used to sell these like packages where she would like include like, I don't know, a bunch of different stuff, and you bought the whole thing. And then you got all this stuff from her and services and all this stuff. And she said that there were people that every time she would do it, she would always have like a scholarship, like one or two of them she would give away basically. But she said that every single time she gave away those scholarships, those people didn't do anything that she asked them to do.
No,
they had no skin in the game.
No, zero.
And so she stopped doing it. And guess what? Her compliance, the things that she was asking, the success, the way that people engaged with her went way up. Right.
Yeah, and it's exactly right.
And I don't know how exactly to translate that into what, painting or what you do, but I think the mentality is the same, right? Like if you're giving your things away, you're going to attract people that just want this like free shit, and they're not going to value they're not valuing you, and they're not also valuing themselves and what they could get out of it. Like they don't care about their house or their, I don't know, like the quality or whatever it is, right? Like they're so yeah, it's like when you put yourself out there in a way that's so true and so in integrity and so like
you're telling people you're valuable and that you're
getting
worth
that back.
Yeah, exactly.
And I this is something, as we're talking about it, I'm like, yeah, man, I got to keep working on that. This isn't something that I've got figured out for sure.
Right.
Like, I don't know, I had a couple of interactions with a couple of people this week, and I'm like, I'm not really my ideal person, like this isn't really the way that I want to interact with people around what I do.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's 100. You're right. And we've both been through that. I'll say two things here, Serge, and then I'll answer that question on the market, because it's really easy to figure that out. But two things are, one, you no one respects freebies. No one respects it. They have zero respect for it. None. And I used to do classes out of my old shop, and I would teach people how to, do all kinds of different stuff as far as remodeling and DIY stuff, setting tile, whatever. Probably 1 out of 10 classes that we offered that was actually a free class, I actually had people like sign up and come to. Right. All of the ones where I was like, the fee is this, almost every time we, and I'd set the capacity, how many people I'm willing to teach in a group setting. So it was like, max out at 7, 10, whatever it was, right? If you put a price to it, people sign up in a hurry, right? Especially when it's like, classes capped at whatever. If it was free, half the time we get like 2 or 3 inquiries and that was it. Like no one committed to it. No one signed out signed the thing up. I had one time where there was 5 ladies that are all in the same group that are apparently going to try and remodel their friend's house themselves. And that was the story. And they were like, they wanted to learn how to set tile. So they came to the shop. I told them it was the only free class I actually had a successful turnout on.
Fascinating. Yeah.
All the other ones were only if I charged. When we were doing class out of the shop and we were charging. That's the only time I had people show up to that and commit.
Yep.
You put them on the line. And that's showing them you're worth something. It's valuable and it's worth it to them I'm paying for it.
And they're going to put some skin in the game on it. They're going to put some energy into it.
It's worth the whatever amount of dollars they're going to pay.
Because like we've talked about, that's all money is, right? It's energy moving. It's moving around. It comes and it goes. It comes in, it comes out. Sometimes it flows in a lot. Sometimes it flows in a little.
Yep.
But the way that you engage with it is actually at the core of the business, So, and I think when I look back on the businesses that I did that didn't work real well, that's why probably the biggest thing is my relationship with that flow was shit.
It's the same thing we always talk about, your relationship with money. How do you feel about money? Are you okay taking people's money for providing a service, a product, whatever it is you're doing it to bring money back to your end. You're putting things out there in the ether and it comes back to your end. And to this day, I still have a hard time sometimes if I send an invoice out and it's like a week late and I have to call somebody and say, hey, can we collect on this payment? I have a hard time actually asking people to give me that. It's due. It's agreed to up front. Like, this is what you're paying. Work's done. Everything's good. Everyone's super happy. Pay me, bitch. But I have a hard time with that.
Yeah.
Other people in this industry have no problem walking right up. How's it going? Hey, how's it going, Shane? Yeah, I need my check. Yep. You're 2 weeks late. Let's go. You pay up, Oh, I'm so sorry. And people forget. Listen, a lot of it is very innocent. Sometimes it's not. And Serge, I'm telling you, be ready for that in this business. You'll be chasing checks. You're always chasing checks, but don't be afraid to take that money. Have your relationship with money be a good one.
Yeah.
You earned it. Did they agree to that price? Yes. Then they owe you that money. You're done. Yeah. Everything's good. Good. Write me the check. Pay me my money. And as far as like, helping people out and wanting to give free stuff, that's all fine. You know what you can do? You can get on a YouTube channel and do this for free. There you go.
So true.
There's ways to give back.
There's ways to give back, and
you don't need to be doing it in someone's house, right? Nope. Don't give. I have a habit of doing that. I'm in someone's home doing we're doing a remodel project. We're finishing a basement. I'm walking out one day and I'm like, oh my God, what happened to this? Half time I'm like, I'm gonna fix this trim for you. I'm gonna hang this door right for you. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Don't do that. If you want to, then tell them there's a problem and say, hey, I can tell you what's wrong. This door doesn't shut, and this is why.
Right.
Oh, really? Let them say, what would you charge me for you to fix it? Don't say, I'll take care of it for you. No, because you know what that means? Yeah. I'm going to do it for free. They're owed nothing. And then they start actually taking advantage of that. And this is them walking all over you. Okay.
Yeah.
For the rest of that project. And then it's harder to collect money that's actually agreed upon and due. So keep that in mind.
Totally. Yeah. You train people for that. And it's your fault that they do that.
Yeah.
And that's something that
you enable that behavior, and it continues. And trust me, it gets worse.
Yeah. Joel Klatt. I don't know if you guys know Joel Klatt. He's an ex University of Colorado football player. He's like a announcer for Fox Sports or somebody.
He's a couple networks. Yeah.
Yeah. He's on the radio, sports radio every now and again, but he talks about at the level of the professional football team, if you see things happening, it is being coached or it's being
Enabled.
Yeah. He said something like allowed or coached or something like that. So it's not, and his point was like, it's your fault that this stuff is happening.
Yeah.
And it's your fault because you taught it to him, or it's your fault because you are enabling it, allowing it to happen. And I just think about that with some of the people in my business. I'm like, damn it, you're right.
Yep. It's easily
I trained them wrong.
You trained them wrong. It easily happens.
Yeah.
And then they're going to tell the next, and by the way, and he'll do this and he'll do that. Oh, really? Oh, I'm calling him right now. Bad idea.
And you want to, there's a balance, I think, with everything, but you do have to have your boundaries. You do have to have this is a great conversation. I think it's really fitting with what we're talking about. What's our topic today? 2022.
Where do we go from here? Because listen, there's going to be a lot of changes in this coming year. And you guys, if you're following us, you've seen a lot of my rhetoric, and certainly Dr. Matt has preached a lot of the same stuff, but just be ready to adapt quickly and on the fly, especially if you're starting a new business. Great time to start a new business, especially in like, for example, in Serge's in his industry. It's a great time to start that, but be ready for a lot of weird things to happen. Be ready for a lot of adaptation to happen. As a new business owner, that's easier to do than someone like me or Dr. Matt that's been doing it a long time. Like, whoa, we have to do what now? I remember doing this like 10 years ago. Oh my God, this brings me back to the beginning, whatever it was. And again, if you're doing those things up front, vision, establishing a specialty, knowing what you want to do, it'll be much easier to be able to kind of switch gears a little bit. But I guess I owe you that answer on the market too. Figuring out your market is just what do you want to do? I mean, what, like for you, it's what kind of painting you want to do. And like I was giving examples, I mean, you can see this thing behind me. Are you doing more like woodworking stuff? Because that's a special type of painters do all kinds of stuff like finishing this stuff too, right? I mean, sometimes we'll build, I'll build a set of cabinets and I'll send them out to a painter in the shop to paint them, because I have a sprayer and stuff, but I don't want to do that. I'm not in that game. I'm not set up that way. And I'll do occasional small things, but if it's whole kitchen, no, that's getting sent to a painter. Is that you? Do you have a shop? Are you just doing, exterior house painting? Like, listen, just painting the exterior of homes, you can be doing just fine. So, if someone's replacing roof and siding, hook up with those insurance companies, those remodel contractors, the new builds, they're going to need painters. You could get a contract for 400 homes and you got 2 years of work right there. The numbers aren't going to be as great as doing like remodel work if you're working for a production builder, but you have guaranteed work to start out. Sometimes it's not a bad idea. So things like that, that's your market.
And I think too, and I think too, sometimes you have to try stuff and see what fits a little bit. And sometimes I think it's good to connect with Well, it's always good to connect with mentors, call up a painting company and just talk to them and say, hey, let me take you to lunch or something, just pick
grab a coffee and see what kind of work you guys do. Can I stop by?
Pick people's brains. I mean, good companies, competition is competition, and they thrive on it. So I think they almost like welcome, and I think that's one of the biggest downfalls in my profession is we sort of have this mentality that it's almost like there's not enough sick people and you have to be like the only person. I'm like, whoa, what? like people were so like averse to like competition or averse to other people in their area. And I'm like, and I learned that very quickly. Like, hey, there's plenty of sick people. There's plenty of people that are not going to resonate with me. So why not connect to those people that are starting or those people that are been doing it a while? Like, just, be engaged with all of that and learn from those people. Because the best thing that happened for my business was finding a mentor and someone that could like, give me the guidance and show me the ropes.
Yeah, it's very important. I didn't ever have one of those, so I can tell it's very
important. I didn't at first either. And it was very hard. So
yeah. And getting the right one, I mean, you can certainly find anybody that's, experienced, knowledgeable, whatever, but you got to mesh with, again, how you're running your business, what type of personality your business is. And that's part of you, obviously. So you got to mesh with those people too. But yeah, I mean, absolutely pick people's brain, network, connect, all of that's going to be, along the same lines of understanding what your market is, what your vision is, what your specialty is. Because guess what? They're going to ask you. The first thing they're ask is, what type of painting? What type of doctor are you? What type of, builder, whatever it is. Right. What are you looking to do? What kind of work do you want? I can give you all kinds of work. Like, Serge, if you were out here, I mean, I could throw you work for years, but what do you want? There's a lot of work that you probably don't want. Right. And someone out there, I mean, there's high demand for it right now. And again, going into 2022, you guys have heard this term, the Great Reset. There's a lot of people changing careers, changing paths, changing visions within their business, whatever it is. There's opportunity there for sure to do that. But again, that's also going to come with a lot of, big changes, understanding those changes. Being prepared for those things is important.
Yeah, it's being adaptable, being agile.
Yep.
Easier said than done. Sometimes you don't know
easier said than done.
Need to do it, but
yeah, some of it's reactionary, and I mean, you have to be good at being reactionary, but you don't want to run your business that way.
No.
So
you don't want to run your health that way either, right?
You don't want to run your health. No, certainly. Like, all of a sudden, like, don't come run and see Dr. Matt after you've been dealing with something for a month. Well, I mean, I hear my wife talk about it all the time, and it's just like, I mean, especially when she's on call, and someone will call at whatever time of night it is, and there's how long have you been experiencing this pain? Since Tuesday. Well, today's Friday at 9:30 at night. Why are you just now getting a hold of me? Yeah. What are you doing?
Thought it would
reacting.
Right.
Yep. I'm reacting. Right. No. Don't do that.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, I think from a health standpoint, our bodies have those two mechanisms of our nervous systems are wired kind of two ways. There's the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digestion and kind of balance and calm part. And then there's this sympathetic nervous system, which is your stress system. So we need both, right? We need both, one to deal with, the threats and things like that. And we need the other to kind of balance that out. But a lot of people are running in that fight or flight survival state all the time.
Yep.
And a lot of people are running businesses that way. A lot of people are, interacting in the relationships that way, and that's just not a sustainable way of doing it. It's a very good thing to have when you need it, but it's not sustainable.
Yep.
And so, I mean, you have to,
oh, man. It's all good.
You have to be
adaptable. See,
and that's where the adaptation comes in, right? Like, but that's what we're very good at that as humans, being able to adjust and adapt, survive. But you don't want survival to be your default, like that survival.
No, and don't get used to it.
Well, it's not, you can't, it's sustainable and not sustainable. You'll end up with, I don't know, an ulcer or a heart problem or whatever, or you'll drink too much, or I don't know, like it's something, your health will suffer for it.
Right.
And that's a lot of what I work on, is trying to help people with that kind of long-term sustainable lifestyle.
Root cause, root solution.
Right. Like,
and stay with it.
Here's why you're where you are now. And it's a consistency. It's long. It's a long game.
Oh yeah. Everything is. And that's imperative with starting business and running businesses too, is you're going to have ups and downs. Be prepared for all of it. I mean,
especially going into next year.
Yeah. I mean, I'm watching a lot of different things. I'm watching, the economy in general. I'm watching the way people are dictating their lives in 2022 as far as a lot of things go. Where's people's money going to come from, right? I mean, everyone's going to be changing in some way as we continue through and sludge through this other nonsense. How is that going to continue to affect, mental states of people, which is why they're pushing off into other career paths and endeavors and whatever. But if they're staying with what they're doing, or if they're starting a new business, how is that going to affect the decisions they make as they try and grow their business, knowing that things are still, up in the air with a lot of different types of scenarios? how is that going to affect everyone in general, and being ready for that and being prepared and
totally. Yeah.
making the right decisions.
Well, that's actually really, I'm glad you brought that up, because that actually really kind of brings me full circle back to that whole parasympathetic nervous system place, because to make good decisions, to really access choice in your, in life, we have to be in that parasympathetic nervous system, that relaxed state. They've actually done these functional MRI studies of the brain, where they're actually able to see blood flow in the brain with an MRI. And when someone's in a survival kind of stress, they'll stress someone in that situation, like purposely, to see where the blood goes. And there's a part of the brain, it's in the back. It's basically a part of the brain that's very, very kind of rudimentary, if you will. It's kind of our original brain, part of our more original brain. And that's our survival part of our brain. And they see the blood flow to that area, and it flows away from the part of the brain that's up here, which is called your prefrontal cortex. And this is important, because the prefrontal cortex is what governs your choice. It governs logic. It governs decision-making. And so if you're in this sort of fight or flight state, back in this more reptilian part of our brain, you actually don't have access to choice. You actually don't have access to being able to, like, you know, choose. I just, it's simple. Like, do I want to do this or do I want to do that? Like, what's the best way forward for me? And if you it makes sense, actually, because if you think about it, if you're in a survival state, if your life is in danger at that moment, you don't want to have to be like, which way should I go? Right? You just react. You just go. You fight, you flee, or you whatever it is, right? Something happens. But the reality is, we're not in that survival mode all the time. We shouldn't have to be. So we should have access to that part of our brain that gives us the space to choose. And I think that's so important going into this next year, that we need to really honor that and put practices in place that can bring us. And we've talked about this. This is some of the stuff we talked about, like belly breathing and I don't know, meditation, there's all sorts of tools that are out there. The first is actually just recognizing, oh shit, I'm not in that state.
Right. Know? Mentally, I need to, like, correct myself. I need to bring myself back to the rational world. Right. And aware that you're doing it. It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Totally. It's designed to happen that way, and it's okay. You need it. It's not bad, but it's not sustainable, and you don't have access to clear decision-making. And this applies to business. This applies to health. This applies to relationships.
Stock market.
Totally.
Don't trade that way either. It's the same thing. You can't make real decisions that way.
Not long-term sustainable good decisions. You can make quick reactive decisions.
Well, there's decisions that are made. They're not the right ones, right?
Yep. You might get lucky.
You might get, hey, every once in a while, luck will hit somebody eventually. My mom used to tell me that all the time, and she was just infamous for saying, you made choices. They weren't good choices. You have to understand why you made those choices. And it was, what reaction caused you and created this path towards whatever you decided to do.
And Connie's talking to you as the undeveloped brain.
Right.
Well, that's the other, and I don't know, I think whoever, a lot of the people I know are listening might be younger guys, the male brain doesn't fully develop until about 25 years old. Female brain a little bit sooner, like 21, I think. So we're talking about not having access to some of this stuff, like literally not being able to have the ability to do it because it's not fully developed. It's like asking a 4-year-old to drive a car.
Right.
Like that part of their mental capacity is not there.
No.
And so, if you're over 25 though,
no excuses.
It's time to, all that's online.
You become an adult.
unless you have like horrible trauma, and there's a lot of other reasons potentially.
Oh, there's lots of factors. Yeah.
Could be not online as well as it should. But, anyway, that's another discussion. But I think, as we kind of, look going ahead, that would be one of the things that I would, from a medical health recommendation, really try to promote for people, is to be responsible for that and be aware of it.
Yeah. And making sure that the information that you're gathering to make those decisions is viable, it's accurate. That comes from a little bit of experience. That comes from a lot of research and paying attention and listening. And then you want to remove the other factor that we're continuing to see, which is the fear factor that creates this decision-making in haste, and it creates irrational thoughts and decision-making. And I'm consistently seeing people still make those decisions, and I wouldn't call them poor ones, but I don't think in another state of mind they'd be the right one for those people. So you got to.
They're literally coming from that part of the brain, that reptilian part of the brain, and it's
fear's driving all of the movement.
Totally, and it's understandable.
Sure, it is. No, people are like, "Well, Shane, you're never scared of anything." Well, that's bullshit. Of course I am, but I mean, most of the time, I recognize when I am scared of something or fearful of something, and decisions are made within that. But I make sure that I'm not letting it dictate which way I'm going to go. Sometimes I decide not to do something because of the fear, but I'm not letting it. That's not the reason I did it. I get back to a rational state and say that's probably not a good idea, or I could get injured myself, or whatever. And the other time is like, you know what? But the outcome, the percentage is on my side if I move forward with this. And I'm not just talking about doing stupid stunts and recreational things that I do, but I'm talking about in business or taking a risk, financially and investments, whatever it is no, I've calculated it. And yeah, it's scary, but that's not making my decision for me.
You're coming at it from the logical part of the brain, then the choice part of the brain. Yeah. Well, it's interesting, in that same study, they were looking at the blood flow in the brain. They actually also found that one of the biggest things that would shift how that blood was flowing was taking a deep breath. They actually found that deep breath moved the blood to the prefrontal cortex. Simple.
Yeah.
The problem is when you're in that really stressed out state, you don't remember to do that. And you don't have access to that. No. So you have to practice when it doesn't count. You got to practice it. And that's why I talk to my patients about this all the time. Especially this last couple of years. We just got to breathe. You got to take some breaths. You got to practice this. If you're at a stoplight, do a couple of breaths. Before you go to sleep every night, take a few of these breaths. Like just bring it back, because it has tentacles into all other aspects of your life.
Right.
How much better would your relationship with your partner be, if you could actually come from a place of we're both coming from this logical or more rational place versus this like trauma-based fear that, we all have from relationships or from businesses or from, and going forward. Oh, totally. And going forward, we're going to have to practice this even more.
We have to get better at it if we weren't good at it. And we have to remind ourselves that we were doing that. We have to continue getting better at it too. Like we have to that has to be part of it for sure. And I'm talking to myself too, just knowing that, I've had my moments in the last couple of weeks. Like you could have just said, okay, recognize it, stop, take a deep breath. I mean, sometimes I have to close my eyes because like the stimulus of whatever's involved, of whatever I'm looking at the moment doesn't allow me to even take a real breath or like to stop long enough to make it worthwhile. So I have to dude, I had the other day, I laid on the floor on my back.
Nice.
And I'm like, nope. You can't react that way yet. Whatever it is, go. You have 5 minutes. You can do this.
Totally.
I have to force myself.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to do that at first. That's why getting out in nature is so helpful, right? Like just going for a walk or sitting by the creek or sitting by a tree. Like, you know what? If you don't have a ton of nature, you've got a tree somewhere. Just go hang it. Just go like put your hand on it and have a breath for a second, you know, like it doesn't have to be a big deal. It doesn't have to be all woo woo or crazy either.
Sometimes it's 30. So you're not hugging it. Just take a moment.
Just connect, you know, just a little bit like, okay, here we go. I'm grounded.
And you don't have to make it weird, or if you're embarrassed about someone watching you do this, then pretend you're stretching your calf or you're leaning against it. And
nobody fucking cares.
Nobody cares.
Anyway.
But if it's like that's what it takes to start to get used to it, then do like there's just really there's no excuse, because you always hear like, oh well, I just, you know, people are gonna look at me weird, blah blah blah. There's a way around any of that.
Nobody's looking at you.
But guess what? Nobody cares, because nobody's paying attention to you. It's a self-centered world.
And if they are, they forget about you next moment. So.
And maybe they're looking at you thinking, man, I should have been doing that. That guy, that woman, boy, they're doing it right. I wish I could do that right now. And that, you know, you never know what's in someone's head anyway. So don't worry about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's important though, going forward. We're going to have to be responsible for this stuff.
Do it more. For sure.
We're going to have to be. It's just it's not even going to be negotiable.
Get yourself back to normal as much as you can.
It's going to have an impact on everything. Yeah. Finances, health.
Yep.
Relationships.
Yep. A lot more scary stuff. And the scary stuff is
potentially there. Yeah.
Comes from good opportunities. The scary stuff can come from recognizing maybe, you know, what's been going on for a while is maybe not what you need to worry about. And that's hard to let go of, you know. I'm not going to get into specifics, but, you know, let go and just let yourself like get back into you. And it's a whole nother year. I can't believe it's 2022. I mean, that doesn't even make sense to me.
I don't even know either.
It's so weird. It's so weird. Yeah. Right on, Serge. Well, I appreciate you stopping in, brother.
Yeah, man. Thanks. See you. Glad it was helpful.
Yeah, for sure. It actually kind of tied in well with what we were talking about tonight anyway. And all the lurkers, hopefully you picked up something from some of that. And we'll wish Serge the best. Obviously, reach out to me, man. Dr. Matt too. Like, just reach out, reach to us. Yeah.
I think it's great. People do their own thing. I love it.
It's rewarding. I think you'll love it. I think you'll be great at it. Many things come from that. And if you pick the right spots, it'll be perfect. Trust me. Trust me. You'll get a few gray hairs, but it's all right.
People will show up to support you.
Yeah. Surround yourself with the right people like you've always been doing. You'll be fine.
Yeah, totally.
Ignore the rest of the noise. You'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Do what you want to do. All right. On that note, I'm getting hungry. Me
too.
So I'm going to head down and see what's cooking.
Sounds good.
Thank you to everybody.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, everybody. Stopping in. And if you listen later, thanks for listening. And
if you're on the restream, thanks for listening. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe button is right there. It's the big red thing. Hit that as well. Bell for notifications so you know when we go live again. That gets pushed out ahead of time so you have notification.
Yeah, we try to do these every couple of weeks or so.
Yeah.
So we'll probably get back into that in the new year as well.
Yes, sir. And I'm actually starting, and Dr. Matt knows Morgan, but I'm starting a live stream real estate one as well.
Right on. Nice.
She's a newer realtor, but she's crushing it. And again, another entrepreneur out there like took that step, and look what happened. So we're gonna be on with Morgan after the new year. We'll start that one. Again, make sure you hit that bell so you know when that's coming out. We're talking real estate. It's all real estate in that one, so it'll be fun. But until next time, everybody have a happy holidays.
Yes, whatever you do.
Don't eat too much candy. Yeah. Watch the fructose. Let's just take a break, relax. You can have some, but just don't go wild with it.
Don't go nuts. And
just recognize it doesn't make you feel good if you overdo any of it. And that's going to come up if you do it. And the next day you wake up and go, God, I feel like shit. Well,
we've all been
You made a choice. It just wasn't the right choice.
And with that.
All right, man. Well, it's good to see you.
Yeah. Nice to see you, man.
Yeah.
Talk soon.
All right. Thanks, guys.
See you guys.
Later.